What would you say if I told you that you've been misled about some of the biggest facts about space? In this video, we're diving deep into 25 of the sneakiest space lies you were told, and it might just change how you think about the universe. From the colors of the stars to the true shape of the Earth, you'll find that space isn't quite as it seems. If you're ready for a mind-blowing trip through space myths, buckle up, and don't forget to subscribe to Surprise Insights to keep unlocking the unexpected with us. Let's get started with the first sneaky fact. 25. Astronauts aren't truly weightless. People often think astronauts are in zero gravity, floating freely because there's no gravity in space. In reality, the astronauts are experiencing something called microgravity. The reason they float around is because both they and the spacecraft they're in are constantly falling toward Earth. But because they're moving so fast horizontally, they keep missing the planet. This results in what looks like weightlessness, but it's more accurately a continuous freefall, a concept called orbit. 24. The sun isn't yellow, it's white. While the sun looks yellow from Earth, that's actually due to the Earth's atmosphere scattering the light. Without atmospheric interference, astronauts see the sun as white, as it emits all colors in the visible spectrum equally. It only appears yellow or orange during sunrise or sunset because the light is passing through more of Earth's atmosphere, scattering blue and green wavelengths and leaving the warmer hues. In space, you'd see it as a blazing white, illuminating everything with a sharper, colder light. This is why photos taken in space have a very different tone and contrast than those taken on Earth. 23. Your phone doesn't rely on satellites. It's a common belief that our phones are constantly pinging satellites above us to connect calls, but most of this communication actually happens via undersea cables. These cables span entire oceans, allowing the bulk of global data, calls, and even internet traffic to stay grounded. Satellites are only used for GPS and specialized communication like satellite phones in remote locations. If satellites were responsible for your phone service, connections would be more limited, and outages would be far more frequent. So next time you check your phone, thank the ocean floor cables below. 22. Flying through an asteroid belt would be easy. Movies make asteroid belts look like an endless swarm of deadly rocks, but real-life belts are incredibly sparse. The average distance between objects in our solar system's asteroid belt is hundreds of thousands of kilometers. NASA spacecraft, such as Pioneer 10, have safely traveled through without a single collision. This means if you did fly through an asteroid belt, the odds of even seeing an asteroid, let alone hitting one, are slim. Hollywood's crowded asteroid belts are dramatic, but not very realistic. 21. The Great Wall of China isn't visible from space. You might have heard that the Great Wall is the only man-made structure visible from space, but this isn't accurate. At the International Space Station's altitude of around 250 miles, astronauts can see cities, highways, and even airports. The Great Wall is visible under perfect conditions, but it's far from the most prominent human-made feature. In fact, larger structures like city layouts and even some dams are easier to spot. This fact shows just how well myths can stick when they're fascinating enough. 20. Earth isn't a perfect sphere. Due to Earth's rotation, the planet actually bulges at the equator, making it an oblate spheroid. This bulging effect adds about 42.77 kilometers to Earth's equatorial diameter, meaning that places at sea level along the equator are actually farther from the planet's core than at the poles. Interestingly, the centrifugal force of rotation causes this effect and can even impact gravitational measurements slightly. For example, you'd weigh a tiny bit less at the equator than at the poles. Our spinning Earth has a few unexpected quirks. 19. Mercury isn't the hottest planet. Though it's closest to the sun, Mercury's lack of a thick atmosphere allows it to cool off dramatically at night, with temperatures dropping to minus 173 degrees Celsius, minus 279 degrees Fahrenheit. Venus, despite being farther from the sun, traps heat with its dense, carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere, causing temperatures to reach an average of 480 degrees Celsius, 896 degrees Fahrenheit. Venus's runaway greenhouse effect makes it the hottest planet in the solar system. Surprisingly, This also means Venus has some of the most extreme atmospheric pressures and violent weather patterns in our solar system. Mercury's surface, on the other hand, swings from scorching heat to frigid cold each day. 18. The sun isn't a ball of fire. Contrary to popular belief, the sun's heat doesn't come from fire, but from nuclear fusion. Deep in the sun's core, hydrogen atoms fuse into helium, releasing vast amounts of energy in the process. Fire, as we know it, requires oxygen, which doesn't exist in the sun. The fusion reaction generates light and energy, which travels to the sun's surface before radiating out into space. This process has been burning for 4.6 billion years and will continue for billions more, eventually transforming our sun into a red giant before it cools into a white dwarf. 17. The moon doesn't have a dark side. Many people think one side of the moon is permanently shrouded in darkness, but this isn't true. The moon is tidally locked with Earth, meaning we always see the same side, but both sides receive sunlight over the course of its orbit. The dark side is better referred to as the far side of the moon. Only half of the moon's surface is ever dark at one time, and each side gets roughly equal amounts of sunlight. This misconception is likely due to the phrase dark side popularized in pop culture. 16. Pluto isn't considered a planet anymore. Once known as the ninth planet, Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet by the International Astronomical Union in 2006. This change came about because Pluto didn't meet all criteria for planet status. Specifically, it hasn't cleared its orbit of other debris. It's one of the largest objects in the Kuiper Belt, a region beyond Neptune filled with icy bodies. Pluto's demotion was controversial, sparking debates that continue today among scientists and space enthusiasts alike. Yet, in its dwarf planet role, Pluto continues to fascinate researchers who study its unique orbit and surface. 15. Planet 9 may be real. While Pluto was demoted, astronomers are searching for another potential ninth planet far beyond Neptune. This hypothetical planet 9 could be massive, possibly 10 times the size of Earth. Evidence for it comes from the unusual orbits of objects in the distant Kuiper Belt, suggesting the gravitational pull of a large, unseen body. Though it hasn't been directly observed, scientists continue to track the movements of distant space objects to pin down its existence. If discovered, Planet 9 would be one of the most significant finds of our generation. 14. Black holes aren't 2D funnels. Black holes are frequently depicted as flat, swirling whirlpools, but they're actually three-dimensional. A black hole's event horizon is spherical, meaning that, rather than a 2D funnel, it's better imagined as a dark sphere with intense gravitational pull. Inside, matter is compressed into an incredibly dense core known as a singularity. Black holes aren't sucking in matter as often portrayed. Instead, anything that gets too close simply can't escape its gravity. Their spherical shape is a critical feature in how they interact with surrounding space and time. 13. The Milky Way isn't the only galaxy with planets. For a long time, scientists speculated that planets were unique to our galaxy, but recent findings suggest otherwise. In fact, researchers have found evidence of exoplanets in galaxies billions of light years away. These extragalactic planets were detected through gravitational microlensing, a method that uses the gravitational pull of distant stars to reveal smaller objects like planets. The discovery hints that planets may be common across galaxies, suggesting the potential for life beyond our own galaxy. So, the Milky Way is just one of many galaxies that might host a diversity of planetary systems. 12. Space isn't really a vacuum. Although space is often described as a perfect vacuum, it's actually filled with tiny particles, dust, and cosmic rays. In fact, there are around 1 to 10 atoms per cubic centimeter in interstellar space, though this is far fewer than in Earth's atmosphere. This vacuum is also filled with energetic particles from the sun and other stars, and these particles can damage spacecraft over time. Furthermore, there's a faint glow from the cosmic microwave background, remnants of the Big Bang. So, while space might look empty, it's far from an absolute void. 11. Saturn isn't the only planet with rings. Saturn's rings are certainly the most dramatic, but it's not alone. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune also have ring systems. Jupiter's rings are faint and composed of dust particles, making them almost invisible to the naked eye. Uranus's rings are dark and thin, possibly from broken-up moons or ancient collisions. Neptune's rings are faint, yet fascinating, with dust and particles forming arcs that clump in unique ways. These rings vary greatly, showing that rings are not as rare in our solar system as Saturn's iconic rings might lead us to believe. 10. Mars isn't really red. Mars appears red from Earth due to iron oxide, or rust, on its surface, but the planet has more varied colors up close. The Martian soil has shades of brown, gold, and tan, and its sky can even appear blue at sunset. The famous red planet hue is mostly a result of iron particles in the soil that scatter sunlight. Additionally, Martian dust storms, which can last for months, kick up these particles and give the whole atmosphere a reddish tint. So, while it's red in appearance, Mars has far more diverse colors than many realize. 9. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion. The term Big Bang might make it sound like a massive explosion, but it was more of a rapid expansion of space itself. In the first few seconds after the Big Bang, the universe expanded faster than the speed of light in a phenomenon known as inflation. Rather than matter expanding into empty space, space itself stretched, carrying matter with it. This initial rapid expansion set the stage for galaxies and stars to eventually form. So, the Big Bang wasn't a blast, it was the birth of space and time as we know it. 8. A day on Venus is longer than its year. Venus has an extremely slow rotation, taking about 243 Earth days to complete one rotation, while its orbit around the Sun takes only 225 Earth days. This means that a single day on Venus is actually longer than its year. What's more, Venus rotates backwards compared to most planets, with its rotation being retrograde. This strange spin is likely due to a colossal impact early in Venus's formation. So, if you lived on Venus, you'd experience a day that spans nearly an entire Earth year. 7. Shooting stars aren't stars at all. When we see a shooting star, we're actually watching a tiny piece of space debris burning up in Earth's atmosphere. These meteoroids can be as small as a grain of sand, but when they hit the atmosphere, the friction generates intense heat and light, creating a glowing streak. Larger meteors that survive the journey to the ground are called meteorites. Interestingly, some shooting stars are tiny particles from comets, which Earth encounters as it travels through space. The next time you see a shooting star, remember that it's just space dust putting on a brilliant show. 6. Humans can't actually explode in space. Movies often show humans exploding in space if they're not wearing a spacesuit, but that's an exaggeration. If exposed to space, you'd likely lose consciousness within seconds due to lack of oxygen, but your body wouldn't burst. Instead, gases in your body would expand, causing swelling, but your skin would keep you from exploding. Without the protection of an atmosphere, your body would eventually freeze and dehydrate, a process called mummification. So while space exposure is deadly, it's not as dramatic as Hollywood often makes it out to be. 5. Black holes don't suck everything in. Black holes are often depicted as cosmic vacuum cleaners, but they don't actually suck everything nearby. Objects need to be within a certain distance, called the event horizon, to be drawn in. Outside of this region, black holes exert gravitational forces just like any other massive object. In fact, if our sun were replaced by a black hole of the same mass, Earth's orbit wouldn't change. It would simply be dark. The real danger lies in their intense gravitational pull near the event horizon, where not even light can escape. 4. The moon smells like gunpowder. Apollo astronauts reported that moon dust, which stuck to their suits, smelled like gunpowder when they returned to the lunar module. Moon dust is incredibly fine and abrasive, made from micrometeorite impacts that shatter rocks into tiny shards. This lunar dust has no biological counterpart on Earth, so it's uniquely sharp and difficult to remove. Interestingly, While it smelled like gunpowder to the astronauts, moon dust is not flammable and reacts differently due to the lack of air on the moon's surface. The mystery of moon dust scent adds to the intrigue of lunar exploration. 3. There are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on Earth. This famous analogy is often used to emphasize the vastness of the universe, and it's not far off. Astronomers estimate there are roughly 100 to 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone, and about 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. When you multiply these figures, you end up with a number vastly greater than all the grains of sand on Earth. This staggering number only includes stars in the observable universe, as the actual size of the universe could be far larger. The sheer scale of space is almost beyond human comprehension. 2. Time moves differently in space. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is affected by gravity, meaning that clocks run slower in stronger gravitational fields. This effect, known as time dilation, means astronauts on the International Space Station experience time just a little bit slower than people on Earth. Over the course of 6 months, they age about 0.005 seconds less than people on Earth. This phenomenon becomes more extreme near massive objects like black holes, where gravity warps space and time so intensely that time essentially slows down. So, time really is relative depending on where you are in the universe. Space is full of mysteries and misconceptions, and every new discovery challenges what we thought we knew about the universe. From black holes to cosmic distances, it's clear that reality often defies expectations. If these space revelations blew your mind, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Surprise Insights for more surprising facts that change how we see the world around us. Keep exploring with us, and remember, space is even stranger than fiction.